They say blood is thicker than water, but in my case, blood only made betrayal sting deeper. I trusted my family with everything. But when my mother died, I found out just how far my own sister would go to erase me from the family entirely. And that's when I knew I'd make her regret ever being born. My name is Calla Brennan, and up until 3 years ago, I thought I had a pretty normal life. I was 31, unmarried by choice, and running a successful small interior design business in Eugene, Oregon. I was known for turning rundown homes into magazine-worthy spaces, and my clients trusted my taste more than their own. I lived in a renovated farmhouse on the edge of town, cozy, clean, filled with plants and the warm scent of cinnamon and cedarwood. It was the kind of life I thought would make my late father proud. He died when I was 16. Since then, it had just been Mom, my older sister Raina, and me. Raina was always the golden child. Beautiful, poised, and wickedly manipulative when she wanted to be. She married a doctor straight out of college and never let anyone forget it. While I worked hard to build something from scratch, Raina floated through life like a glossy magazine ad, never lifting a finger, never dirtying her French manicured hands. But still, I loved her. I loved us. I thought we were close, even if she was sometimes toxic. I thought she'd always be my sister before anything else. Mom got sick 2 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. It moved fast. One day she was making lemon bars in her favorite apron. 6 months later, I was spooning morphine into her mouth and holding her hand through her last breath. I was the one who took care of her. Raina, predictably, was too busy to help. She visited maybe 4 times during that entire final year, breezing in with cashmere scarves and sympathy that felt like theater. I brushed it off, told myself maybe grief made her weird. Maybe she just couldn't handle watching Mom die. I told myself a lot of lies back then. The funeral was quiet. A small gathering in our childhood church. Raina wore black Chanel and didn't shed a single tear. Meanwhile, I gave the eulogy. I talked about Mom's laugh, her apple pie, her habit of humming old love songs while folding laundry. People cried. Raina checked her watch. But the real shock didn't come until the following week, when our family lawyer, Mr. Hendricks, called us in to go over Mom's will. I expected things to be split equally. That's what Mom always said she wanted. 50-50, no fighting, she used to joke. But as Mr. Hendricks read through the legal papers, my hands started to tremble. Everything was left to Raina. The house. The bank accounts. The investment portfolio. Even the antique brooch that had been passed down from my grandmother, which Mom swore was going to me one day. I stared at the document in disbelief. There must be a mistake, I said. My voice was small. Mr. Hendricks cleared his throat and looked at me with pity. I'm sorry, Calla. This is the most recent, legally binding version of your mother's will. It was signed 2 weeks before her passing. Raina gave me a smug little shrug. Mom changed her mind. Maybe she didn't think you could handle the responsibility. I couldn't speak. I just stood there as the room started spinning. Mom wouldn't have done this. She couldn't have. After the meeting, I cornered Raina in the parking lot. You made her do it, I hissed. You pressured her when she was vulnerable. Raina didn't even flinch. Prove it, she said, tossing her Gucci bag into the passenger seat. And even if you could, who'd believe the broke little decorator over the responsible wife and mother? Then she drove off with a smirk. That night, I cried until I couldn't breathe. But the grief didn't last long. It turned to rage. And then something colder, harder. I wasn't going to fight her in court. No. I was going to unravel her life piece by piece. And I was going to start with a lie she thought no one knew about. After the reading of the will, I stopped going to the house. Correction, my mother's house. The one I nursed her in. The one Raina now claimed as hers. I couldn't stomach the thought of walking through those familiar rooms knowing Raina's designer heels were scratching the wood floors, knowing she probably threw out Mom's quilt and replaced it with some overpriced throw from Pottery Barn. Instead, I went home. I sat on the porch of my own little farmhouse and stared at the fields and the sky and the birds flying free overhead. Then I opened my laptop. Because I wasn't going to just stew in heartbreak. I was going to do something. See, Raina made one mistake when she married her golden boy husband, Derek Alcott. She assumed I'd forgotten what I saw 10 years ago at that medical conference reception in Portland. Back then, Raina had just gotten married. I was invited to a fancy dinner, a rare sisterly inclusion. I remember being dazzled by the chandelier, and then deeply disturbed when I saw Derek sneak off with a brunette nurse near the back entrance. I didn't tell Raina at the time. I convinced myself it was just a misunderstanding. But now? That memory returned like a loaded gun. I opened every social media platform and searched. And searched. It took time, but eventually, I found her. Natalie Espinoza. RN. Still in Oregon. Still working in the same hospital system as Derek. I cross-referenced her profile photos with my memory and knew I'd found the same woman. Only now, Natalie had a daughter. 7 years old. Brown eyes, dimples. No father listed on any of the school or online forms I could see. But the timing, the age, it aligned perfectly. Was it possible? No, scratch that. I knew it was possible. The girl looked just like Derek. I downloaded photos. Ran them through one of those genealogy facial comparison tools. 89% similarity. I felt sick and victorious at the same time. Derek had a secret child. A child he'd likely kept from Raina. And this wasn't some messy affair from last week, this was a years-long lie that could blow up their perfect life in one well-placed explosion. But I needed proof. Real, legal, undeniable proof. So I reached out to Natalie. I didn't lie. I told her who I was, and I told her the truth, that I believed Derek never told his wife about their daughter. I expected her to block me or freak out. But instead, she responded with 5 simple words. I've been waiting for this. We met the next day at a coffee shop halfway between Eugene and Portland. Natalie was soft-spoken, tired-looking, and wore no makeup. She looked like someone who carried years of silence. She told me he was separated, she said, her fingers wrapped tightly around a lukewarm mug. He said their marriage was over. I didn't find out the truth until I was 5 months pregnant. He begged me to keep it quiet, for his career, his family, everything. My stomach clenched. So you agreed? I was scared. He was powerful, and I was not. I stayed quiet. I thought maybe someday he'd do the right thing. But he never did. He sends child support through a private fund, but he's never met her. And I'm tired of pretending. I leaned in. Would you be willing to get a DNA test? Something I can use? Natalie nodded. Yes. And I have emails. Texts. Photos. Everything. I wanted to cry. Instead, I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You don't know what this means to me. No, I wasn't doing this out of justice. I wasn't doing it to reunite a father and daughter. I was doing it to burn down the pedestal Raina stood on. It took a week to gather everything. Natalie sent over screenshots, bank records, a mail forwarding address he'd once used, and eventually, the DNA test that confirmed it beyond all doubt. Raina's husband had a secret daughter. And I had the match. But I wasn't going to just send it to her anonymously. No. I wanted her to look me in the eye when she realized everything she loved was a lie. That weekend, I offered to meet her for brunch. Let's talk, I texted. We're sisters. We shouldn't let Mom's passing destroy everything. Predictably, she agreed. Always the narcissist, Raina loved the idea of being gracious. We met at her favorite overpriced bistro downtown. She looked radiant in a cream blazer and gold hoops, sipping a mimosa like she'd never wronged a soul. I'm glad you reached out, she said. I know things have been tense. Tense, I said dryly. Sure. So what's on your mind, she asked, flipping her hair over one shoulder. I pulled out the manila envelope I'd brought with me and slid it across the table. What's this? She asked, frowning. Just a little scrapbook, I said, sipping my black coffee. Of Derek's other life. She stared at the envelope, confused, then slowly peeled it open. One by one, she pulled out the photos. The emails. The DNA results. Her face drained of color. Where did you get this? She whispered. Oh, I've always known about Natalie, I said, smiling sweetly. But it took losing Mom and getting stabbed in the back to finally do something about it. You're lying, this is fake. No, Raina. What's fake is your marriage. What's fake is your perfect life. What's real is that little girl with Derek's eyes and your last name not on the birth certificate. She looked like she was going to be sick. Don't worry, I said, finishing my coffee. I haven't told anyone. Yet. But I thought you deserved a heads up. You wouldn't dare. Oh, I'd dare, I said, standing up. Because while you were off stealing wills and pretending to be the good daughter, I was watching. And I know exactly where to press next. I left her there, shaking. The first crack had formed. Now all I had to do was widen it. Watching Raina's face crumble over brunch was the first breath of satisfaction I'd felt since Mom died. But I knew one confrontation wasn't enough. If I wanted true justice, it wasn't just about personal revenge, it was about public exposure. Raina lived for appearances. So that's where I would strike next. She had built her entire identity around being Derek's perfect wife, the admired board member of the local women's charity, the smiling face at every fundraiser and wine auction. She donated in Mom's name, gave press interviews about family values, and posted curated Instagram photos of dinners she didn't even cook. I wanted that image shattered. I spent the next week gathering intel like a patient surgeon. I followed her social media, noted the upcoming charity gala she was co-chairing, a high-profile black tie event for the hospital foundation where Derek worked. Perfect. My first move? Anonymous packages. The first one went to the board president of the charity. Inside, printed screenshots of Derek's financial support to Natalie, the DNA test, and a short letter typed in clean font. The Alcotts are not what they seem. For the integrity of your organization, you deserve to know who you're putting on your stage. The second package went to Derek's hospital HR department. The third? Straight to a local gossip columnist who thrived on scandal. And then I waited. Within 48 hours, the cracks turned to fractures. The first sign was Raina's Instagram going dark. Every post wiped. She claimed she was taking a break for mental clarity. Please. I knew better. Then came the calls. First, to Derek, from the hospital board, requesting an urgent review of a potential ethics violation for failing to disclose his parental relationship with a child tied financially to his income. Raina, apparently, had no idea I'd hit so many angles at once. She called me in a fury. Are you insane? She screamed. Derek's job is on the line. I just got suspended from the charity board. What the hell are you doing? I smiled as I pressed the phone to my ear. Didn't I warn you, Raina? You took Mom's house, her money, her memory, and expected me to play nice? You're destroying everything. No, I said calmly. I'm revealing the truth. You destroyed everything when you decided greed mattered more than family. She hung up. Later that day, I heard from Natalie. Apparently, a lawyer representing Derek had called her, trying to negotiate a gag order and a more formal settlement. Natalie laughed them off. I don't want money, she told me. I just want the lies to stop. You'll get your piece, I promised. And I'll get my justice. But my revenge wasn't complete yet. I wasn't just after public humiliation. I wanted the house back. My mother's house. Raina had listed it for sale, probably hoping to cash out before her reputation hit full collapse. What she didn't expect was that I knew the listing agent. In fact, I had redesigned that agent's home 2 years ago and helped her land 3 major clients from my referral alone. So I called her. "Hey, Holly," I said casually. "You're listing 14 Sequoia Drive, right? My mom's old house?" "Oh, Kala. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that was your family home." Raina said her mother had passed but didn't mention she left it to Raina, I said, choosing my words carefully. "But there were complications. Emotional ones." "I understand completely," she said. "What can I do?" "I want to buy it. Cash offer. Full price. Today." There was a pause. Then Holly said, "Done." It was true. Thanks to a few smart business investments, and no children or high-maintenance lifestyle, I'd saved more than people knew. Enough to buy back my mother's home outright. And I was going to do it not just to reclaim what was mine, but to show Raina I could take back everything she stole. I waited until the deal closed before texting her. "Hope you weren't too attached to the kitchen. I'm tearing out the backsplash." She didn't reply. But I didn't need her words. I imagined her screaming into a velvet pillow, clawing her nails across the marble countertop she'd only owned for a month. I moved in that weekend. I lit a candle in Mom's honor. Then I poured a glass of red wine and sat in the living room that still smelled faintly of lavender and memories. She tried to erase me. But instead, I erased her illusion. And I wasn't done yet. Because there was one more secret Raina never expected I'd uncover. One that involved not Derek, but her. I thought reclaiming the house would make me feel triumphant. And it did, for a while. But revenge has layers. Sometimes you uncover something so vile, so buried, that it poisons everything it touches. And that's exactly what happened next. Raina's unraveling was far from over. I was going through the attic, boxes of my mother's books, old receipts, sewing patterns, and dusty manila folders. That's when I found the photo album. Not the kind with vacations or birthdays. No, this one was hidden in the very bottom of a trunk, wrapped in a floral dish towel like someone didn't want it found. I opened it, and my blood turned cold. Every page was filled with baby pictures. Hospital bands. Ultrasounds. But not of me. Not of Raina either. The name on the hospital discharge papers? Hannah Brennan. Born April 9, 1997. Mother, Raina Brennan. Father, not listed. I stared at the date. I was a freshman in high school then. Raina was a junior, only 17. And no one in our family ever mentioned a baby. My hand shook as I flipped through the rest. Letters from adoption agencies. Confidential records. And one photo that hit me like a lightning strike, Raina, 17 years old, holding a tiny baby girl, tears on her cheeks but smiling like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to. I sat there for hours, piecing it all together. Raina had a baby in high school. She gave her up. And never told anyone, not me, not Derek, maybe not even herself once she buried it deep enough. But Mom knew. That's why the file was here. That's why Raina always hated me for being the good one. I didn't carry that shame. I didn't need to pretend. And now, after all her fake lectures about family and legacy and what Mom would have wanted, I realized the truth. Raina built her perfect life on a lie so big it changed her name, her personality, her sense of self. I didn't know what happened to that baby girl, Hannah. But I intended to find out. I ran a people search using every scrap of data from the file. The agency name, the hospital, the birth date. It took 3 days. On the 4th, I found her. Hannah Louise Tate, adopted in Sacramento, raised by a schoolteacher and a mechanic. Now 27, working as a counselor for at-risk youth. Living in Seattle. My stomach flipped. This girl had no idea who her birth mother was. And her birth mother? Pretended she didn't exist. And here I was, holding the truth like a live wire. At first, I hesitated. Was it really my place? But then I thought about everything Raina did to me. What she did to Mom. What she tried to take. And I realized, this wasn't revenge. This was justice. I reached out to Hannah. I didn't say much in the message. Just that I had information about her biological family, and I could verify everything if she was willing to talk. She replied the same night. We met over video chat the next day. I didn't send her the full file, just one photo. Raina as a teen holding her. Hannah blinked. Then blinked again. That's me, she whispered. My adoptive parents have one just like it from the day they picked me up. I nodded. That's Raina. Your birth mother. She's my sister. Her mouth fell open. She never looked for me. I'm sorry, I said softly. I just found out myself. She took a breath, trembling. I always wondered. There's more, I added carefully. She's a public figure. Wife of a hospital executive. She pretends to be perfect. But she's done a lot of damage to people who didn't deserve it, including me. I don't want anything from her, Hannah said quickly. I'm happy with my life. But, she should know I exist. I smiled. I agree. 2 days later, I dropped the final match onto Raina's house of cards. I invited her to lunch again. She came, cautious, exhausted, hiding behind sunglasses like a celebrity in hiding. She didn't even pretend to be gracious this time. What now? She muttered, sliding into the booth. I handed her a single photo. She stared at it for a long time. Then she went pale. That's not possible, she breathed. How did you left her, I said flatly. You let Mom deal with it. You shoved her out of your memory. But she's real. And she's alive. And she knows who you are now. You're insane, Raina whispered, tears gathering in the corners of her eyes. You have no right, no you had no right, Raina, I snapped. No right to take Mom's money. No right to rewrite the past. No right to pretend you're better than anyone. She looked at me like I was a stranger. Did she want to meet me? She asked quietly. I don't know yet, I lied. But I think that depends on whether she sees any remorse in you at all. She didn't answer. She just walked out of the restaurant, shaking like a leaf. And I sat there, smiling to myself. Because now, the world knew what I always had, that beneath Raina's polished smile was a scared, selfish, hollow girl who ran from every consequence she ever earned. It took Raina a month to respond. 31 days, to be exact. She didn't call. Didn't text. Just sent a single letter, typed, formal, and slipped into my mailbox at the house she once tried to sell out from under me. Kala, I understand now that I cannot erase what happened. I have lived my entire life terrified of who I used to be. That fear turned into control, into lies, into hurting people I loved. I don't expect your forgiveness. And I certainly don't deserve Hannah's. I have stepped down from every board. Derek and I are separating. And for once, I am not running. I hope you take care of Mom's house. I hope you take care of yourself. No apology. No emotion. But for her, that was monumental. I sat on the back porch that night with a whiskey in hand, watching the wind move through the trees Mom planted when we were kids. I felt something unfamiliar stir in my chest. Closure. But I wasn't done rebuilding. Because what mattered most now wasn't the destruction, but what I did with the ruins. The first call I made was to Hannah. She and I had kept in touch after the reveal, messaging sporadically. I didn't push her for anything, just sent photos of Mom's old journals, recipes, our family tree. She absorbed it all slowly, carefully. When I invited her to visit, she agreed. She flew in that October. The moment I saw her walking toward me at the airport, something shifted in my gut. She looked like Raina used to, same sharp jaw, same long stride, but her eyes were her own. Kind. Curious. We hugged like old friends, not lost family. No expectations. No pressure. She spent the weekend with me in Mom's house. We made her old lemon chicken recipe. We laughed about the vintage wallpaper in the upstairs bathroom. We cried when we found a recording of Mom's voice tucked into one of her old cassette tapes. I don't know if I want to meet Raina, she told me one night. But I'm glad I met you. I reached across the table and took her hand. Me too. That was when I realized, my revenge wasn't about Raina anymore. It was about me reclaiming what mattered, my mother's memory, my sense of family, my voice. Raina had tried to bury me in her ambition, in her fake perfection. But I came back stronger. Clearer. Whole. And maybe, just maybe, so did she. A month later, Raina requested a meeting. Not at her estate, she'd sold it, not in a restaurant. She asked to meet at Mom's grave. I was hesitant. But I agreed. She looked smaller now. Worn down, yes, but also, human. We stood in silence for a long time before she spoke. I was pregnant, alone, and terrified, she said. Mom was the only one who didn't hate me for it. But I hated myself. So I pretended it never happened. I tried to rewrite who I was. I thought if I could be perfect, I could erase the part of me that felt broken. And you sacrificed everyone around you for that lie. She nodded. I did. Why now? I asked. Why here? Because this is where it all started. And because I wanted to tell you, thank you. For stopping me. For showing me what I'd become. I wasn't sure what to say to that. But I didn't need to. We stood together, for the first time in years, as sisters. Not allies. Not enemies. Just two women carrying the same grief in very different ways. I didn't forgive her, not fully. Not yet. But I let go of the hate. She walked away with tears in her eyes. I stayed behind, ran my fingers over Mom's name etched in the stone, and whispered, I fixed what I could, Mom. I brought her back to the truth. I brought Hannah home. And that was enough. Months passed. Raina faded into the background of the town she once dominated. Her social media stayed silent. She didn't return to charity boards or gala circuits. She took a job quietly mentoring young women at a nonprofit, low profile, no attention. Hannah and I remained close. She visited often. She called me Big Sis once, jokingly, and I cried for a full hour afterward. And as for me? I redesigned the house, kept Mom's favorite things, but made it mine. I launched my own interior design studio from the basement. Clients came. Word spread. Success followed. But more than anything, I finally felt peace. Raina once said she wanted a perfect life. I used to believe I wasn't allowed to want anything at all. Now, I know better. Perfection is a lie. But peace? Peace is earned. And I earned every bit of it.